Wow, that's got to hurt. That looks like a scene out of Road Rash. Hi guys, Martin here with an exclusive first look at Ride, Milestone's new bike racing IP that aims to be the Gran Turismo of bike games, featuring over 100 licensed bikes. Essentially then, this is Milestone's answer to Tourist Trophy, which was released nearly 10 years ago now. There really hasn't been any equivalent bike game since then for motorcycle enthusiasts, so there's definitely potential for Ride to plug that gap in the market. It's set for release on March 27th for PS4, PC, PS3 and also Xbox One and 360 a week later on April 3rd. We'll be looking at a few races in some previously unseen tracks, but the first thing you're going to be doing is setting up your personal rider. There are an abundance of customization options. It's a lot more extensive than what we've seen in previous Milestone games. There's over 30 options to change your face alone. Gone are the days where your rider avatar was actually a developer mugshot in disguise. Even your rider's gear can be personalised with licensed clothing from real brands. Then it's time to select your first bike. At first you're limited to a few entry-level naked bikes, but you can rent some of the faster superbikes afterwards in the quick race mode. In total, there are 113 bikes spread across 14 manufacturers. Just about every motorcycle manufacturer you can think of is represented here. It's a pretty comprehensive list, although there's definitely a focus on modern bikes here. There's also quite a lot of repetition. You'll find some models have multiple variations, much like the dozens of near-identical Nissan Skylines and Gran Turismo we love to mock. They're also completely customizable. The sheer wealth of options available is rather impressive. Each bike has 20 customizable parts. You can customize everything from the cosmetics, the gears, the suspension, and completely customize the engine as well with new exhausts, air filters and oil replacements and things like that. All of this has a noticeable effect on the bike's performance in game. Changing an exhaust, for example, will see a noticeable change in the audio effect as well. And they're all real licensed aftermarket parts as well, not generic parts you often see in other games. Best of all though, they're not rank restricted, so you have access to all the available customization options as long as you have enough credits to buy them. As for the tracks, you'll be racing on 31 circuits across 14 locations. There's a good mix of licensed racetracks such as Imola and Donington, plus some fictional tracks based in iconic locations renowned for their motorcycling heritage. Here, Milestone really took advantage of the creative license you get with developing a new IP, compared to licensed motorsport games like MotoGP, where you obviously have limitations you have to adhere to within the championship. Milestone visited locations such as Wales, Japan and the Nevada desert, and created bespoke racetracks for rides, which sets it apart. Sadly, the Isle of Man TT hasn't made it in though. I did ask the developers about it and they admitted that they did consider it, but time unfortunately didn't allow for it. That probably isn't surprising though, considering the full circuit is over 37 miles long, but they didn't deny the possibility of it appearing in the future. So who knows, maybe we'll see it in a DLC expansion, or the inevitable Ride sequel. Quickly just looking at the career mode, it's basically a standard world tour, except you have complete freedom on how you approach it. Milestone explained to me that they want you to be able to enjoy all bike classes and not restrict you, so it sounds similar to the career in Project Cars in that respect. So on to some race gameplay then, and here we are taking a ride around a previously unseen track set in the Japan Kanto Hills, getting to grips with one of the entry-level naked Ducatis. You'll also be able to view all of these races in full in additional videos. We'll have links pointed to those throughout. This is a near final build of the game you'll be playing, seen here running on the PS4. There were still a few bugs and glitches that hadn't been ironed out. The audio on one of the bikes suddenly cut out at one point, for example, when I changed the view. But I'm sure that won't happen in the final game, don't worry. The physics are set to semi-pro. I just think it gives you the best balance between realism and accessibility, while still offering a degree of challenge. Graphically, the bike models and even the rider look great. There's lots of intricate detail and some impressive reflection work on show. But it's a shame that same level of detail couldn't be applied to some of the environments. They're still looking a bit too sterile in places for our liking. It just lacks that bit of polish you expect to see in a current generation title, but that's possibly a setback from developing on multiple platforms. I'll be interested to see how it compares on the older formats. This should soon be a thing of the past though, as it looks like Milestone will be focusing only on current platforms in future releases. Fortunately, the frame rate seems to have been improved. It was skipping frames quite badly in places in the last build we played, but it still doesn't look completely smooth either somehow, which detracts from the sense of speed a bit. Apparently it still fluctuates below 30 frames, and there's some noticeable slowdown in replays as well sometimes. We're told though that the final game will run at a solid 30 frames per second, so we'll have to see if they deliver on that promise. It's still a shame it's not 60 frames though, but there we are. Wow, that's got to hurt. It looks like a scene out of Road Rash. So the next track we're looking at here is the Miami Street Circuits. I decided to up the ante, dive into the deep end, and try out a faster superbike. And consequently my rider probably broke every bone in their body from the amount of times I lost control and slammed into the scenery. Obviously the increased power requires more finesse in the controls. It's possible to lose grip if you're too liberal with the throttle and send your rider catapulting off the bike. The physics don't feel quite as demanding as MotoGP, but you have to remember Ride has to appeal to a wider audience than a licensed motorsport game like MotoGP. Having said that, I think the physics is still intuitive enough for novice players to get to grips with enough depth for seasoned riders if you crank up the difficulty settings. So I think it's safe to say players of all skill levels will enjoy it, which is exactly what a game like this should really set out to achieve. I like to play with the external view, but you'll also notice I skip through the various camera options, looking just for a quick look at the dashboard and helmet cameras. I have to say they're actually a bit disappointing. If you look at the side mirrors, you can see there aren't actually any reflections, which probably explains why they haven't been shown very much in official videos. For some reason other riders aren't showing in the reflections, as you can only see the ground, which looks a bit daft. It looks like static from a TV. Finally, I take a ride in France. This is probably my favourite track so far. There's some really nice views overlooking the French Riviera that should really show off the draw distance, and also some thrilling high-speed sections through tunnels, which you've just got to love. So that's our first look at Ride, definitely shaping up to be a pretty solid game for bike fans, if a bit unpolished, but I can see future franchise potential here, if it's successful in its quest to be the two-wheeled equivalent to Gran Turismo and Forza. Anyway, I'm going to leave you with some more of this final race now and let you admire the views. We'll have lots more ride content coming on the channel and website very soon.